What's up, Trash Talkers? Here at Veteran Trash Talk, we actually vet our sponsors. We don't just take their money and run like a butter bar lieutenant lost on the land nav course. Are you finally ready to plant your flag and claim your territory? Maybe it's time to use that VA loan to buy a home. Or hell, maybe you're looking to refinance and put some extra cash in your pocket for more questionable life decisions. Either way, the Veterans Mortgage Source, powered by Canopy Mortgage, has your six. Look, buying a home or refinancing can feel like getting overrun on a bad op. Chaotic, confusing, and full of obstacles that make no damn sense. That's where Corey and his team come in. They're like the QRF of home loans, ready to pull you out of the chaos and guide you to the best program for you. And trust me, they'll answer all your questions. Yeah, even the dumb ones. Whether you're a salty vet or fresh out of barracks still trying to figure out where your TA-50 went. Great service, solid rates, and a team that actually understands the military life. That's why all of us here at Veteran Trash Talk trust them to do right by every veteran and their family. Ready to lock it in? Give Corey a call or shoot him a text at 808-699-7874. That's 808-699-7874. Don't wait. Unless you like overpaying and getting treated like an FNG. The Veterans Mortgage Source is powered by Canopy Mortgage, LLC. All loans are subject to credit and property approval.
What's up, Trash Talkers? Listen, it's impossible to fight, okay, if you don't know what you're fighting for. Does that make sense? Like, if you're in the dumps and you're struggling with mental health, things of that nature, it's going to continue tearing you down, all right? Because you're consistently trying to fight something, which is that demon, which is usually something from the past, right? Maybe that why needs to be fighting for your future. Let that be your why. Get the hell up and start fighting for your future. Stop fighting things that happened in the past. Easier said than done, right? Go seek help. It's okay not to be okay. A lot of people need to hear this. You are more of a warrior and a fighter if you stand up and say, hey, this has to stop. I need to go seek help. The stigma, everything has changed. It's okay not to be okay.
And so my honesty cap is dedicated to a little, we'll call it a public service announcement for civilians and other people in the military. There are a few people that you should always take their stories with a grain of salt. Vegans, CrossFitters, and special operations guys that tell you that they were special operations without being prompted. The first thing they say is, yeah, I used to be soft. Right. The only unicorn in that entire group is like a special operations guy that was like a vegan and did CrossFit. That guy's probably going to stay quiet for a little bit longer because he's confused as what he should talk about first. And that's the only reason. Right. Anybody that says that they were soft without being prompted or without it being like a normal part of your communications is probably either an enabler or going to tell you a bunch of stuff that's not exactly true.
What's up, Trash Talkers? Hitting you up this morning with a special promo on how to dress when you are doing PT in civilians, but you want everybody to know you're an Army. This comes from the Buddy Beckwith fashion design of how to work out. So first, you can notice the RI panties. Not Ranger panties, but Ranger instructor panties. The green socks, the knee brace for the old guys. Don't forget the M frames. Now the shirt, don't wear the Trash Talk shirt while you're running. This is just for the promo. You want to put on like an 80-second shirt or like your favorite airborne shirt so everybody knows that you're a veteran. That's the most important thing. And you start with this stretch. Buddy Beckwith taught me this one. ready to go.
This is the Veteran Trash Talk Hour, hosted by Nick, Dave, and Buddy. Real warriors making fun of other real warriors. Try to not get triggered.
What's up, Trash Talkers? What is up, Gruntworks Nation? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 33 of the Trash Talk Hour. Special guest today is Ryan McDermott, author of Downriver, Memoir of a Warrior, and today joining us is the Baker because Nick is playing golf with his rich buddies. And Buddy, how's everybody doing today?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Another day, another dollar, man. You're tuning in from France.
Correct. Yep, from the south of France, where they say bonjour and merci beaucoup instead of the uppity way in Paris. Yeah.
Parlez-vous français? That's the only thing I remember.
Buddy,
Little
turn your speaker down a little bit. We're catching feedback from your mic.
Oh, probably should have done that when the show started.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do any of what you're talking about right now.
You're on a laptop, right? Turn the volume down.
I don't know why you're talking to me all crazy. Then I can't hear you.
Beret. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
that's
Like
fine.
I said, now I just can't hear the show. Great job.
I didn't say turn it off. I just said turn it down.
Anyhow.
Jesus.
Anyhow, yeah. So everybody's
Special
doing good.
Forces
Everybody's
right
doing
there.
good. Yeah, Special Forces. That's our Green Berets, right?
Special
Good
is
group.
correct.
Yeah, we have to have everything at full blast because we can't hear.
Yeah.
Turns
Talking
out.
about full blast. Yeah, let's get right into it today. Before we get to our guest, I did not send Chris a conspiracy video today because I kind of
Didn't
just
bother to
wanted
tell
to
me
have
either.
I just kind of wanted to have an open discussion on everybody's point of view, and it doesn't have to go in any, order or anything. Just kind of like, what's everybody's take on us getting involved in Iran and assisting Israel with the whole situation that's going on over there? And my personal, I did a video on TikTok about 3 hours ago. Kind of gave my personal opinion on it. I just don't understand what the end result or the goal is, and just serving 20 years and been to the Middle East twice. Yeah, it's like, what are we doing? Like, why should we be getting involved in this war? Like, what is the end goal on this one? And then the whole talks about weapons of mass destruction kind of rings a bell. I think we've been there before.
Well,
go ahead, Chris. Yeah, this is an open discussion, so go ahead.
They have proven via NATO that they do have 60% enriched shit, and we know that they're extremists. So what's stopping them from launching? Because 60 is still enough for a dirty bomb. 90 is, the precision guided, shit that we have is what you need. You need 90% enriched uranium or more of 235 specifically.
We've been talking about nuclear weapons with them for the last 20 years, though. Again,
and they've been getting better at it, though.
Yeah,
because a few years ago they were at 3%. Now they're at 60. And don't get me wrong, they still have many, many years to go. But I think just the extremism we're worried about. I'm
not denying that they do harbor a lot of terrorism. They fund Hamas, things of that nature, right? So spot on with that taking a lot of
be trusted.
From what I'm seeing in the media is a lot of Iranians want to be liberated from that regime. That could be true, right? Because Iran used to be a prosperous country, in the 70s
it's a
or
first
80s?
world country.
Before
60s and 70s, it was not first world is they were a liberal, very liberal country back in the 60s, 50s and 60s. But there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from history. One of those is that generally politically things move in a pendulum, and if you allow things to get too far to one side, they're going to shift back to the other side just as far in order to try to find equilibrium. And we should probably look at them and look at ourselves and see that, while you might not want to live in a world where people don't know if they're a dog or a cat, you probably also don't want to live in a world where evangelical Christians are telling you that you you're not allowed to take antibiotics because it's not in the Bible. Also,
Well, we got the same evangelical Christians telling me on my TikTok, Israel, like the people of God, and it says in the Bible that America needs to defend them. I'm like, can you show me that scripture, please? Like that is like
well,
some like
that's a whole different topic. But I think
yep,
that as veterans of the GWAT, and I think we're all at the age now where it's our job to protect our. We already did the go to war with no end state, with no
yep,
task and purpose, and it's our job as people that have seen the repercussions of that to
yep.
speak up and say, hey, it doesn't mean that we're hippies and we're
Of
not like
course.
not against war, but there are things that are worth fighting for. I'm not at all a person that's not proud of the things that I did in the GWAT and after. That being said, I'm also not somebody who's going to allow my kid to go to war without a reason and a plan for what we're going to do there. And okay, so we go to Iran and we win. Then what? We just stick there for 20 or 30 years until
We just got done with that, you know?
out in 3 days, and we leave a bunch of people and a bunch of equipment. That doesn't sound like a good plan. I think that right now we're in the stage where we're supposed to voice our opinions, and the administration on all sides is supposed to, if they want to go to war, well, they got to sell it, and they got to sell it with a reason, an end state, and what we're going to do and why we're going there. Like we're past the blindly follow thing. Um, but
And that's what's happening though in the media. If you look at it, that's exactly what the media is portraying
yeah,
again.
well, they
It's
can
this
make a
whole,
lot of money.
yeah, but
A
a
lot of
lot of people
people
this time,
stand to
like you
make
just said,
a lot of money. What's funny is that you were talking about like how whether we should fund Israel and all that stuff. But the truth is, and sometimes you see truth in memes every now and then. But there's a meme of like rockets being fired from Iran and then rockets being fired from Israel, and it's like my tax dollars at work. Somehow, also my tax dollars at work in Iran because we bought those too. So
yeah.
at some point, we got to ask some questions and have some hard discussions.
No, to quote, I think it's a Clausewitz quote that, war is politics by other means. And the point about what is the end state, I think is exactly right. You both have brought it up is that, what is the end, it needs to have whatever's going to happen is going to have some diplomatic solution at some point. Otherwise that's sort of how, that's the concern I think I have is, every veterans who have fought over it's like you realize like on the ground, like what are we trying to do, and how do we get out of here, how do we get sort of the mission accomplished to go home and say victory is ours. And so I think that's one thing veterans I think we bring to the table is that we can ask those very important questions of like, what is this sort of either end state or achievable?
What's the end game? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you gonna unmute me now, Chris? That'd be great. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're doing business or you're building a house or going to war. You can't know how to get from A to Z without knowing what Z looks like. So, if you plan for regime change, okay, who's going to take over? Because if that's your end state, you have to have something that you want to put there. If you are just going to war because you're angry, well, okay, what's the point? How do we fix it? It's like when we were in Iraq or Afghanistan, and you're walking around, doing sweat assessments to try to figure out it. Okay, well, we can assess it, but if we don't plan to fix it and don't know how we're going to fix it, then I can come up with all the assessments you want. There's, if you don't fund it or do anything to fix it, then we're just occupying another people's country, and at some point their sense of humor goes away about having 18-year-olds running them off the road in Humvees because they had the audacity to try to drive in their own neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this other aspect too, I think, and I think it's good that there's a little bit of time element being built in from what you see in the administration, is that there are other big players like Russia and China have stakes here, and in the grand sort of global chessboard, I think we've got to be careful not to overcommit ourselves.
Escalation, right? Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
the escalation, but also deterrence, specifically vis-a-vis China, is a question. I imagine that's some of the, sort of the chess game of like, well, how do, if there's a commitment here, how do they get from point A to point B to Z?
Yeah.
But taking a little bit of time, hopefully we'll be able to get to a solution. I don't know. I have not been dialed into this situation, but because I've got a son who's just commissioned, it's reminiscent of.
Well, I mean, that's the thing,
my
right?
my son is stationed out in Hawaii. He's in the military.
Dave's got a kid in the military. You've got a kid that just commissioned. I've got a kid that's 16 and wants to join the military. So, at some point, it's all very personal for us now. We're no longer the kids that are, that aren't worried about it, just want to go have an adventure and do what we're told. That we're the parents that have to be like, okay, hold on, we've done this before. It didn't work out very well. Like, you're not going to do the same thing just to do the same thing. And I think that we also have to realize that, in a ground war, an air-to-air war over Iran, they don't really stand a chance, mostly because of our air power and the fact that we have so much standoff. But we're still super vulnerable from everything that's in the United States. We had a southern border that both sides have complained about for the last 50 or 60 years and haven't done anything about. And we know for a fact that there are extremists from all of the countries that you just said that have come in through that southern border. And it doesn't take a lot to really screw with the infrastructure of the United States.
Oh yeah, we've talked about that.
On
Isn't there
a
upwards, real quick, buddy? Upwards. I mean, sorry for interrupting, but upwards of 2,000 or 3,000 sleeper cells. I think I saw that on Sean Ryan.
That's a guess too. You know what I mean?
You don't actually know.
If you say that there are whatever 8 or 9 million illegal aliens in the United States, from all different countries, if you just take 1%, you're at 8,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And 8,000 people who have bad intentions, that's a lot. It doesn't take a whole lot to shut down, interstate traffic or entire cities for days and weeks at a time. And as soon as it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if you don't attack the infantry, you don't attack the SF guys, you attack the chow hall, you attack the motor pool. You know what I mean?
Go after the power grid
is screwed up, then and that's paused. You've really put a dent in the ability of a whole country to fight a war. Mm-hmm. So we really need to look at, even if this really goes south, there's a lot of things that need to be secured in the United States, and how do we secure that? And they haven't come up with a plan for that. They can't even agree on, you got these people running around doing the No Kings March, and people running around.
Yeah, something on
attacking ICE and police officers.
Hold on, buddy. I gotta say something on
the law.
The No Kings March. If he was a king, guess what you wouldn't be doing?
Yeah,
marching, because he wouldn't allow it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it doesn't even have to be a king.
Yeah,
try to not be a Mexican citizen and go to Mexico and speak up against their administration of any kind. You'll be in prison and then deported before. But that's a whole different.
But the great thing about our country, you should be allowed to demonstrate if you want. peacefully, like I'm all about it, man. If people want to go out
Peacefully
in the
being the
streets and
key.
voice their opinion, obviously, like demonstrations that turn violent and chaotic, like nobody's for that, right? But like if you want to just demonstrate peacefully, I mean, that's
Well,
the
there are
amazing thing
people
about
that
our
are for
country.
that. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that the people that are for that have no real skin in the game on either side
Yeah.
are just there to cause chaos and want
100%.
anarchy to rule.
Yes,
you know.
sir. Yeah.
So, we have a lot of things that we need to take care of before we really double down
Yeah.
on
We need money though.
you
That
know
war machine's grinding.
yeah on fighting other countries.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm not against going to war, but I'm against going to war without a task and purpose. If a squad can't leave a patrol base without a defined military task and purpose, there should be no excuse for an entire country to go to war without a defined task and purpose. And I think if that's the minimum that a 24-year-old needs to leave the wire, then that should be the minimum that the country owes its warriors before they send them to war.
Damn right. Well said.
That's fair.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're educated on that topic now. Let's see what happens here. I think President Trump gave like a 2-week deadline or something. Something would happen within the next 2 weeks. So fingers crossed. I'm fed up with it, to be honest. I'm just like, no, I'm not for it. This one doesn't sit well. But
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm open to reasons why. You know what I mean? But you have
because
to
we got
lay
to
out
follow
the reasons.
Israel blindly. Like,
Well, I think
like-
what Dave is saying is that at our current state and knowledge, we're not okay with it. But it sounds like
No.
he aligns
And-
with you as well. And he, if there is a real reason to go in there, then
Oh, for
by all means.
sure.
Yeah.
for
Well,
sure.
if there's a reason to go in, and there are plenty of reasons to go in there, but all of the reasons to go in there boil down to we don't like their culture. We don't like how
Yeah.
they treat women. We don't like how they are oppressive to their people. Well, they don't like us either.
And then we'd have
So,
50 other wars to
what's your
fight at the
point?
same time.
You know,
I mean, to be fair though, buddy, with everything the No Kings protest, we don't like us either.
that there are a minority of people that don't like us
Yeah.
that live in the country, and that's a whole different topic about
Yeah.
taxpayers paying for plane tickets. But
Well, there's also a huge conspiracy on why we're fucking following Israel blindly or assisting, but I'm not even going to get into all that.
We can
but,
go into
like,
that next
and
week.
we will. And I'm like pro-Israel too, like on a lot of things. I think what happened in Gaza after, like, later on, like a little extreme at this point, I think personally, like they're so strategic and so tactical with everything that they can do, but they literally leveled Gaza. Like we're sending rockets to Iran, and we like killed, who did we kill? We killed one of them, or we
bunch of there.
I can't say that word, sorry.
Unalive.
But we took that one guy out, like
Yeah.
exactly in his building, but then in Gaza is just leveled to the freaking ground, because they're hiding
there's a
behind
difference
Hamas.
between
when
there's
it
a difference
initially-
between
Go ahead.
targeting a person
Yeah.
and targeting an infrastructure.
Absolutely.
When you're
Dave, here's
targeting
a-
a person, you can use a precision guided, basically samurai swords on a
I mean,
missile.
look what they did
Yeah.
with the pagers. They're smart
That's a-
enough to be
Yeah,
able to
that
avoid
was
all the civilian
nuts.
casualties, in my opinion.
But-
That was my only take. Like, these
On
guys
the-
are,
On the
you know.
Israeli side, you also have to kind of go a little bit back in history and realize that the spidey the hairs on the back of their neck stand up anytime somebody even
100%.
you can say that you want a bottle of gin and they go, what would you say like
Yeah.
genocide
And I'm
is
not, again,
their-
I'm not
they're not a
saying
big
I'm
fan.
anti-Israel, but just some of the things, like, you like just step back for a minute, because when it kicked off in Palestine initially with Hamas, I was like, fuck yeah. And I still am, like, take out Hamas, because we don't fucking support terrorism, right? But now when you look at Gaza, after what, we've been going on this for like 9 months, like, but you are so strategic and you're able to like send missiles or have pagers explode in people's pockets. but you're leveling an entire city and killing thousands, like people, this, what other word can I use? I don't, I
You're
can't say
also
that.
talking about like that's it's such a nuanced thing that to understand, because you're not talking about a bunch of people that are just like innocently walking around. They're all, the level of hate for Jews and Israelis in like the Middle East, especially Palestine, Jordan,
it's
even
insane.
is
Well,
like they legitimately think of their babies as demons.
so I don't know if it's true. I heard, I was listening to
And
something
we got to get to the
recently
guest soon. We're like, this
Yeah,
could be a
in
2-hour conversation.
the Sheik teachings. The Israelis, once they're eliminated from the planet, that's when heaven comes or something like that.
No, I can't.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
I'll have to find it. We can bring it up next time, but
Yeah.
we'll give Faceman a chance to go ahead and refresh
I'm
his
gonna
stuff
try to-
real quick because he can't seem to chat. And we'll introduce
Yeah.
our guest, Ryan. Ryan, I apologize. I was told Thursday night while playing poker and a few bourbons in that I was going to be hosting for you. So I don't have any of the information. I'm not sure of your service history or anything, but he's a veteran who wrote a book.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, it's got to be pretty good. Yeah, buddy, if you know his thing, go for it.
So
I have the book.
So what did you got out as a captain or a major, Ryan?
Captain.
All right. So Downriver, a book written by retired Captain Ryan McDermott. It was the book is about his basically growing up, and then his basically his memoirs in going through West Point Ranger School, and then on to Third ID and the invasion of Iraq. So definitely somebody that has a say in the last topic that we had, but it's a lot of his how he dealt with his experiences both growing up and then his experiences in the military and then after. It's a pretty good book. Easy. Honestly, it's a fairly easy read. I enjoyed the way that you
wrote it, so Marines
I enjoyed
could read
reading
it.
it. So, Ryan, on to you.
Well,
Welcome to the
thanks, buddy.
show, brother.
Appreciate the intro. Yeah, so the book, I think it's good. We were talking a little bit before about why I wrote this and sort of the purpose of putting it out there. I wrote this over like a 25-year period. It was like written contemporaneously with the experiences. So it starts, part one is kind of it talks about my childhood. I was raised in sort of a modern family. My mother had me out of wedlock. Married my stepdad, and sort of normal childhood growing up. But then during my senior year of high school, I found out a little information about my biological father. My mother and stepfather divorced, and in the process, I was applying to West Point to try to go and serve in the military. And during that process, I basically, they divorced and we lost our home, and there's a whole process I talk about with that. And my mother, while I was at West Point, ended up was at one point was in a woman's shelter. She had some mental health issues, and she was addressing them. And so I began writing at West Point, really to kind of process all that. It was an outlet for me, and my writing when I was at the academy kind of became this sort of take all that garbage and try to put it into something that's meaningful for myself, not for others. And then obviously, so after I graduated, I went to the 3rd Infantry Division, went through Ranger School. And I don't know what you thought of that chapter, but I had fun writing that chapter but I had to like pare it down to like one kind of like focus on mountain phase.
Yeah, well, there's so much going on in Ranger School that, and then by the time you get done, you think, oh, I got all these stories I want to tell, and then you kind of forget which one leads into which one. There's only like 5 that you really remember anyway.
Yeah, no. So it's it's a Ranger School story where no sleep, little food, everything's screwed up. The RIs are messing with you, and but it kind of instilled, there's a whole, I think anybody who's been through Ranger School kind of gets it's a suck, and you don't quit, you keep going. And anyway, so my story kind of it's different than a lot of war memoirs, because I think it's very personal. I think anybody that's read it would say it's very deeply personal, and it's focused on the family, kind of a story of my wife building a family and trying to humanize the experience, because what it's like, kind of going into nitty gritty of what it's like to kiss that newborn baby goodbye, going off to potentially a war where you might not come home from. And so that's something I really wanted to kind of portray. That's meant for civilian audiences to better appreciate what we've been through. And so there, obviously with the Iraq chapters, I spent, my unit was, I didn't go into the Army thinking, oh, okay, I picked Savannah because I was like, wanted to be close to Florida. And we ended up being kind of the tip of the spear into Iraq. The platoon, there's a couple battles I kind of described. One is over the Euphrates River, where the Army crossed, and then the one at the tarmac of Baghdad International Airport. We played a minor role supporting the Thunder runs and so forth. But anyway, I kind of go off on this, kind of talking way too much about the stories. But the whole point of this is part two, and this is part two, is the whole experience of going off the war and then coming back from that and reuniting with my wife, my son. And I've forgotten to mention this, is that I started writing like poems at West Point as like a sort of creative outlet. And I decided to kind of interfuse some throughout the book as a way of kind of conveying the emotion of certain moments rather than just describing it. And that's one aspect of the book that's a little different than most war memoirs. The last part of the book goes, after, when I got back, and there's some other war stories I can tell that are actually some that I didn't make it into the book, mainly because of concern of I could tell a couple of blown up civilian airplanes I could tell a story about later. But
like part two's coming out on this book.
No, maybe, or an expanded version of it. But so when I got back from Iraq, I started having, I was weighing whether or not to stay in. Had great leadership, but what I realize now is I had PTSD, like, coming back, because, from some of, those experiences. And I had kind of assessed the situation, and I was like looking at the future of like, well, we're probably going to have lots of deployments, and I kind of viewed the situation would probably never end. Mm-hmm. And, or at least not within my captain time.
Yeah. And well, hindsight being 2020, it did never end. Not for most of our careers, anyway.
Yeah. No, that actually kind of gets to the part three where, I got out, I disconnected from the military, stopped paying attention to the casualty list. And there's a guy I talk about, buddy, and I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy. His name was Travis Patriquin. And Travis.
Hey,
yeah.
Just before you get into this, Travis Patriquin was my PL in the 82nd, and he was the first guy that ever told me that I was a legit warrior. Like I still have his picture on my wall at my house. Travis was a super great PL, really good dude.
Did I do him justice in the book? Dude. I don't know if you think I talk about him in the IOBC, and I learned a lot from him. He loved soldiers. Like, he just had a charisma about him, and really instilled in me this like deep, genuine, authentic love of leading soldiers.
I think Patriquin was probably the guy that it wasn't just that he really enjoyed being with soldiers and leading soldiers and being a soldier. I don't know how much you know about his growing up or but he spoke Arabic fluently. He understood the people. He understood the culture, and he did a really good job instilling in um, a young soldier before when everything kicked off, that people, no matter what country they live in, are still just people, and treating
I
them
love that.
like you would want to be treated, and like killing who needs to be killed, but the people that don't need to be killed, safeguarding and protecting them, and understanding that just because they're different doesn't make them bad. Like you said, Patrick Quinn was a great
We need
dude.
a lot more training like that.
Well, he was
I
also
love
the
that.
guy that came up with there's a stick figure PowerPoint that he came up
Mm-hmm.
that basically describes coin in a way that like even an idiot can understand it. Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, Travis. So we met in the officer basic course. I was M. McDermott. He was P. Patrick Quinn. So he's like right behind me. And there's a whole story I go into about, a field problem and just the kind of guy he was. I actually reached out to his dad and connected to like I think his daughter, and just sort of made sure that and his dad has a little praise quote in the front of the book. Gary Patrick Quinn. And so it was really important for me to make sure. And in a way, Travis is a central character in this book because there's the reference of him during the IOBC. And then when I got to Lehman Brothers years later, I didn't know he died until 2 years after he died. And it just happened to be that he died when I was interviewing. I was interviewing on like with Wall Street firms. And that hit me really hard, that I kind of one, there was this guilt. And then two, this guy was an amazing, when you were with it, I mean, buddy, you could speak to this. Like when you talking to you, you just felt a connect. He like had, I don't know if his eyes, but he was just dialed in. And
Yeah, well, to be honest, he was one of those guys that you see him in the military every now and then, but you don't see him in life very often. Who was super well-rounded, and seemed to have like understood balancing like work and his family, and had everything kind of and he was a very rare, genuinely good guy that cared and was technically and tactically proficient in the task that he was doing. And what really sucked about Travis was that he was so good at his job that there were leaders in the army that were definitely threatened by how good he was, and kind of I don't want to say that they didn't they didn't treat him the way that he should have been. They didn't put him where he should have been put to make the biggest impact that he could make. But even in the places that they put him, he made. I mean, he was central to the Anbar Awakening. He was like, there's an entire book about him, and the fact that there's a book written about just a captain in the third ID
That's
is
significant. Yeah.
that's significant.
No,
But he had
so the
such a
author of
huge
that
role.
book, I had connected. I can't remember how I connected with so it's A Soldier's Dream. That's and I'll put a plug in for his book too.
Yeah.
Very good book.
Yeah, William Doyle. Because
can you look that up, Chris, and throw it on there?
Yeah, if we could look it up, it's A Soldier's Dream. It's written by William Doyle.
I honestly think that A Soldier's Dream should be, especially now, that should be required reading for IOBC. It should definitely be a book that is looked at West Point and anywhere else where, and to be honest, it should be a book that is put into like junior, like non-commissioned officer courses, because it really does a very good job of explaining not war fighting, but fighting in amongst the the environment of the human environment.
Yeah, I think another one, buddy, and this is not to get too far off my book, because I would love my book for a different reason, hopefully be considered for more on the sort of I think there's a lot of lessons of what not to do, in my
Oh
book.
yeah. Well, I've got some stuff about your book too. So
Okay, but no, just to put a pin on the point about Patrick, I think he was a strategic captain, and I think one of the things from the wars global war on terror is a war that was really kind of fought at the unit, like I would say company level, and the generals did the politics of like getting resources and kind of strategy, but like a lot of it was really, that book kind of highlights exactly why Travis was a central player in the Sunni awakening, and it would be, I agree with everything you said.
yeah, well, and I think that goes back to our initial point at the beginning of this show. Even the generals were in charge of strategy, and there was no strategy.
Yeah,
They just go out there and keep fighting the war, keep fighting the invasion again and again. But again, that's something else. I do want to talk about your book, and I'll tell you, there's been two books that I've read that were books about soldiers or whatever, and that really stood out. One of them was a Delta Force operator that we had on the show that wrote a book, All Secure, and it's a very good book.
That's good.
And it kind of does it does a lot. It talks a lot about the same kind of things that your book talks about, as far as dealing with PTSD and dealing with reintegrating, coming back, all of that. But the other thing that both of your books have in common is that he didn't get as down and dirty in the like your raising and your and growing up and how you grew up and your entire life story as a kid from 5 years old until you went to West Point. But he does go into the when how he was raised, and I think that when authors put in, especially people that are writing memoirs, when they put in the context of like how you were raised and the type of family life you had,
You can
that
connect a lot
the
better.
struggles. Yeah, well, it doesn't just connect; it also helps you go through the entire list, because people can say things like, "Yeah, I came
Oh, I
back
see
from
what you're
war and I
saying.
had PTSD," but the PTSD tends to be you didn't learn that on your deployment to Iraq. That was learned behavior before you went to Iraq, and things that happened before you went to war that were just further reinforced when you were at war. And then when you came back, that was just the last thing instead of all of the things. You know what I mean? And I think that when you give the context of like how you were raised and kind of the tumultuous times that you had growing up, especially in your teen years, um, it really gives a lot of uh, context to like how you dealt with coming back, and then you're trying to move on to a different chapter. And like you said, kind of like cutting the tie of being in the military and going to Lehman Brothers and working on the stock market and doing all that. You can see how that started well before you joined the military, because you were forced to, because of your living situation and having to move in with your friends' parents, and having to like your extended family, and how all that works in. I think it's a super good insight into everything else.
Yeah. Well,
Good
I'm
job,
hoping.
buddy.
Yeah, one of the things I'm hoping is
Buddy's talking
sorry.
a lot today. So like your book, I feel bad for not reading it yet, but Buddy definitely enjoyed it, because he's hitting on everything right now. Yeah.
Well, there's a couple, buddy, and I don't know what so one of the, I try to make it accessible, like an easier read than, so for civilian audiences, because it's one, I think my goals for veterans is writing as a sort of mechanism to kind of process, and if you're dealing with like,
It was your own therapy, right?
yeah.
A lot
And
of
I
authors say
actually,
that. Yeah.
and it's broken up into parts, because I actually did, this was one of the late sort of changes or sort of modifications. I actually have chapters that separate the parts that are kind of like counseling sessions, based because I went through counseling in 2011 to kind of process this. It was, I hit, hit this breaking point where and I think this is kind of a military mentality where we don't quit. Ranger, sort of that was kind of my life theme, is that I don't, no matter how bad the situation is, I don't quit, and things are kind of breaking apart on the periphery, and I just keep going. But there got to be a point where I was like, I needed to get to get counseling. And so I didn't try to demystify that. There's this point about not, I use a quote, Hemingway quote, the world breaks everyone, but some are strong at the broke places. But those who will not break, it kills, is kind of to paraphrase it. And the idea here is, and this, David, you hit on this in sort of the intro, is that it's okay to kind of break. It's not okay to quit, but it's okay to get help. And this book is meant, at least for veterans, to kind of show that. And then for the broader civilian audience, I'm hoping that, and I've seen it from civilians that have read it and kind of their feedback is an appreciation for the whole experience of what it's like to go, but also what families deal with in the reintegration. And because there's a whole chapter on casualty affairs, and buddy, I don't know if you read that, got to that part, but there's, I did a rear detachment job where I had to basically console the families of fallen soldiers. And it's an incredibly, the experience that we have, there's nothing like it in society. And I think, and I think that's a big challenge with reintegration, is when you have a society,
100%.
When you have a society that doesn't really understand like what that, because World War II, you could even say World War II, and even though Vietnam was there's a lot of our Vietnam veterans came back to a much harsh environment, there's still relatively probably more broader appreciation what that experience was like. And so for us, it's kind of like, I feel like our generation has had kind of like, hey, we really support you. Okay, let me check out here. Let me just do my own thing. And so there's not as much necessarily a societal understanding of what that experience is like. And
well, I think that we grew up in a generation of like people that, as long as they put a bumper sticker on their car that said freedom wasn't free and support our troops, it was like,
All
okay,
those yellow
like
ribbons.
well, as long as they did the act of they sent out the signal that they were there and that they supported you, there was really nothing more they needed to do. and that is, I mean, I guess, but
Yeah, it's also not their job to understand. But again, that's one of the reasons we started the group, right? Like VTT Official, our community, like we allow civilians in there too, so they can understand the struggles. And like if you're a civilian and your best friend deploys to Iraq and he comes back and he's a little different, maybe you can kind of see what the signals are, what stressors he's going through. Instead of like, why is this dickhead not wanting to talk to me? Well, he's going through a lot of shit.
So Dave, on that specifically, I know you haven't been able to see all of the chats, but Miss Seeley here, she posted this when she first came into the chat, right? And then just now, she's been commenting throughout, and just now she just put this. So like,
yeah, that makes my point right there. Yep.
Exactly. That's what we're trying to do. What we've created this for. We're accomplishing it,
Well, I think to answer her question is, as a civilian or a spouse or somebody that loves or has a veteran, especially one that's been to combat, the best thing that you can do for them is to support them in reaching out to their friends that they were in combat with. And that was one of the points that I was going to make. Or
just other combat veterans.
Yeah, well, that's what I was point that I was going to make about your book, Ryan, is that the thing that I enjoy about this book and that I enjoyed about All Secure as well was that it shows that, like, we have this picture in our head that everyone else is doing great. Everyone else's family is awesome and is like Leave It to Beaver style, is a great family. But the truth is, we all have screwed up families. We all have things that we have to deal with. We all have like problems. Nobody is living the perfect life that we think that they're living. And the only way to really deal with your own, like, we feel like because we think that we're screw ups because we're having problems reconnecting with our kids, and everybody else is just out having picnics all the time. That's reality, and the reality is that most people are having the same issues, whether they're in the military or they're civilians, connecting with their kids or doing anything else. The difference is that we come up with a whole different vocabulary in the military and way to deal with things that civilians probably don't get because it is so much different. And the only way to talk to somebody that's in the same language, that's going through the same thing, is to reconnect with the people that are your age, that have been through some of the same things, that have the same vocabulary, and talk to them. Like I was flying here, I like you guys know, I meet up with a group of guys from the 82nd every year, and we we go do like an activity or whatever, hang out for a weekend, and then plan the next one for the next year. And my dad started doing it with his Vietnam friends and some of the Korean friends, or friends that he had when he was stationed in Korea. And he says the same thing. And like I met a guy that was on his way to go meet up with his friends down in Sarasota on the way here to go fishing, and they do something every year. And there are a lot of organizations that'll send a veteran to go deep sea fishing and hunting and doing all these things, and those are great. But if it's not the activity, it's the group of people you're doing it with, and the time that you get to share your experiences, your problems, all that stuff. And there are very few people that we feel vulnerable enough with, that have seen us at our best and our worst, like than the people that we served with. And when we cut ourselves off from them and put ourselves on an island, we don't have the benefit of their experiences and talking through our problems with people that may be having the same problems. And like,
And sadly, a lot of times it's a pride issue though too, brother. You know how it is. Like
and
you
that's what
don't
I'm
really
saying.
want to.
It's
Yeah.
it's the pride is really a side effect of thinking that everybody else is doing great and you're not. And you don't want to like be like, but when you start bringing it up, you find that more people are like, yeah, I got the same problem.
Going
This
through
is
the
what
same
I'm
shit.
trying
Yeah.
to do. You know what I mean? And you know,
Yeah.
for Ryan went and talked to Paul, and he and Paul connected, and that did a world of good. For a lot of people, kind of the dip your toe in the water of therapy is talking to your friends and then finding out that your friends went to therapy. Like when we had Colonel Luong on the show, and he was
Yep.
talking about him going to therapy. It shows a lot of people that you know that you look up to, or were your leaders or friends, have if they've done it, then that gives you, it kind of opens the door and allows you to be, well, maybe I can go do it too, and I can be vulnerable as well, and maybe it'll help.
For sure.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine who served in I think he was an attorney, but he served in, I think, maybe the 82nd. I can't remember. But he read my book early, and then he was like, he reached out and was like, let's get lunch. And one of the points he made to me was, he said, I thought this was just going to be about war stories and stuff, but it was more than that. And for him, he actually confided in me that he had been going through some stuff recently, like a divorce and so forth, and so I assume it helped him in a sense of like not feeling alone. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to, it's like kind of put me over that point of like, hey, well, I got to get this out there, because there's a guy I served with in the 3rd Infantry Division. He was an officer who took his own life just a few years ago. And I kind of wondered, like, if this guy had felt like others had been through something similar, the isolation. I put a piece in we put a piece that I wrote last week on the Hill, kind of goes into sort of about Father's Day and the weight some people carry. One of the goals here that I have with the book, also the term warrior poet. I don't know if you, buddy, or any of you guys kind of grew up watching Braveheart. Braveheart was like, for me, like,
hell yeah,
fucking amazing
Yep.
film,
Hell yeah.
inspirational. You know, at the end, he's like, they fought like warrior poets, Scotsmen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and there's this idea that like a warrior poet, because I feel like we've been through a lot, and some people may feel like, okay, we're not damaged, we've been hardened or maybe we are, I don't know, but that doesn't make us less. And there's a way of translating our experiences into something very positive, and that's kind of where I want to go with the narrative, is that the warrior, you know, there's a guy I serve with, triple amputee. He lost 3 arms, you know, both his legs and an arm. And I'll tell you, I was like, when I was at my lowest, and I ran into him, we got lunch. I was like, man, I have no reason to feel bad about life at all. This guy has like been dealt this, but he had like such an optimism, and he's a painter like now. He actually, and like some of his work. Yeah, I mean, you got to have this guy on. Like some of his work is like,
We'd love to. Yeah.
I'll plug him in. You know, I'll mention it.
We'll talk after the show. Yeah. Yeah.
He's awesome, and his whole thing now is he paints. Another friend of mine that I went to war with, Justin Morse, he has a woodworking. He makes these rustic flags. That flag in the back, he makes these awesome rustic flags like that open up, like contain, just amazing. He's got a small business, and it's like that's kind of that same model that he's translated. He translate that experience into some sort of creative outlet, and that's, I mean, a part of. I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with this, is to feel a pride about what we've been through and where we've,
sure.
Even though if we have the PTSD, it's post-traumatic growth or whatever.
Yeah, well, and you know, the funny thing about like even what you're talking about, like the triple amputee, and like, is that we always get told and we always believe that we have to keep driving. There's somebody that's got it worse, so just shut your mouth and keep going because you got nothing to really complain about. And we don't really realize that, yeah, the guy might be a triple amputee, but he's still having the same problems connecting with his daughter. You know what I mean? Or he's still having the same problems talking to his wife, or like, you know, dealing with, you know, relationship issues or whatever, because, you know, your brain is still, our brains are all still the same. We still have a lot of the same reactions to, you know, all of the regular, like, I guess, life stuff, you know. But we're like, oh well, I don't want to bitch this guy because he, you know, lost a leg or whatever. And what we don't realize is that when we start talking about it, like the way that we tend to figure out, well, look at TTPs, say our TTPs in Iraq, right? When they start hitting us with IEDs, you know, we started figuring out, well, how are they doing it? And we talked to each other about what we could do to make them not hit our vehicles, or to find them before they did, or whatever.
SKTs,
That's
baby.
how we dealt with the problem. The same way that we dealt with IEDs and insurgents is the same way that we're going to deal with life issues. Like, we're going to figure out TTPs that we can use, but we can't figure them out if we're trying to plan in a bubble, or figure out our problems in a bubble, and only have ourselves to, like, our own experiences. When we talk to all of our friends, we open that window, you know, and make it into, you know, a convertible instead of just a little crack, for our own
More tools
experience.
for our kit bag.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of my TTPs, you know, David, I think it's in your intro that hit upon this, because I was like, man, these are some great lessons here. It's got to stop focusing. You got to get to a point where you stop focusing on the past and
100%.
really, and you got to focus on
That's
the future.
tough though. Yep.
Yeah, it is. But there's sometimes it requires the processing of the past to understanding where you can be present and have that hopeful, you know, and that for me is kind of, not to give away I'll give away the book. You know, I got to a point where I realized the most important thing for me was my kids and their future. And so it didn't matter if I was having a career up and down. It was my kids' future and just being present as much as possible in their life, where that's what mattered. And I think, I don't know if anybody ever feels like they're so damaged where their presence is hurting their kids or something, but like that's definitely not the case, I think. But so my book my son ends up going to West Point, and he just graduated, and he writes,
Congratulations.
and he wrote the last chapter, which is the afterword, which is very honest. It's not some over glorified. It kind of talks through. I'll spare it, but it's a powerful ending. But I think that key is to have. For me, the optimism is like to really find something in the future that's the hope, and it shouldn't be tied to like, well, my career or something. It's got to be something that you have more control over, like community relationships, and if you have kids, kids are a great one.
Yep. And I've done a couple videos of like that on TikTok in regards to the past, and it's not necessarily like completely like we're going to remember, right, what happened and stuff. It's not completely, but we stay so fixated on all of it. And it's just that rut where it's like, you literally in life, you can't control the things that have happened already. You have zero control over any of that. You do have control now. Like every second of the day, you have control on what you're going to do, how you're going to approach somebody, how you're going to talk to somebody. So it's just like that life lesson. But a lot of people have given me crap for those thoughts and how I feel about it, but it's not forgetting what happened. We will always honor, but like you got to move forward. You got to move forward.
I wish I had read Marcus Aurelius Meditations long ago, or the audio book. It's such a great that you can't change the past, but you can change the way you view the past.
100%.
Well, the other thing I think that a lot of people look at the past and they allow it to dictate their future, in that and they blame themselves for decisions they made in the past, and that directs how they're going in the future. And that's you're not the same person today as you were a year ago. You're not the same person today that you were this morning. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So blaming that person for what you're going to do tomorrow is pretty fruitless. It's not even the same guy. So
and then now we're going victim to our own. I don't even want to call it victim, but it is. Now we're going victim to circumstances that are occurring in our life and blaming other situations for our failures or what we're not achieving in life. Like I could go on and on about this right now, but yeah, it's. And I don't like to call people that are like,
not to sound super religious either, but even the Bible talks about giving grace to other people, and we have to really concentrate on giving grace to yourself as well in the past. You know what I mean? Everybody's got things that they weren't proud of or happy with or thought that they could have done better, but you can't go back and do them better. You just have to go, okay, well, I
learned from that.
That was a learning lesson, and now I just don't do that next time, and we move on.
Yeah. Man, that's some deep conversations. Like, I don't know if you mentioned it earlier though, but how long did it then take for you to write the whole book? Because you obviously started when you were in school till like
so I would
deployments in there.
Yeah,
I mean, your son finished the last chapter. So like, what was the timeline?
Well, the writing comprises 25, 30 years of writing.
Wow.
I would say
that's amazing.
I kind of put a stop point on I mean, if you think about most of like 90% of the book was done at like 2011, and I just iterate. I would say the introduction, some of that was more refined, or the epilogue is definitely more recent. But I kind of got to a point even within a few years ago. I was like, I want to publish this, but I can't do it until my kids are of age. So I waited until Brandon graduated, and then my daughter is now 18. So they're kind of it'd be kind of weird to have it out there, and then I'm still if you kind of get to the end, you'll see why. But it took a long time. I kind of feel like I can be done with it now, and we'll see.
I did think it was fun when I was reading, especially the West Point parts and getting into the Ranger School parts. I was like, this guy's got to have like a whole box of Write in the Rain notebooks that he's just like going through and like picking poems and stuff out of, because like the West Point part is written like, as you're going, almost like a journal.
And it was.
You picked a page out of a journal, and you were like, hey, this month, I could have done better at school, but I'm getting through this plebe year all right, it seems like. It was. I thought that was pretty interesting. I enjoyed that part.
That's fascinating about it, because a lot of authors are like, they'll just write the story, from whatever occurred, but this is literally like It is. It's your notes
Well, the
taken
funny
through your
thing
life
about it is
journey, right? Like through
the way
everything, and
that
then yeah,
the way that you wrote that and the way that you picked out those parts of the book, you can legitimately see the growth from the beginning of the book to the end of the book in the person that was writing the book, because it was written over such a long time. There's
it's
a
real time.
completely different person who's in his plebe year talking about going to war and like, yeah, I think I'm good. And then another person, in the middle of the book that's like, nah, maybe that wasn't such a great idea,
You get it, and you can. I
love
can
that.
only achieve that having like it was written contemporaneously with the time periods.
Ryan,
That's
where would
awesome.
you like us? Because I have all of your links here. Where would you like us? The best place to direct everybody to get this so that they can read
Well,
about your life as
Facebook,
well.
they can connect with me on Facebook. I think Facebook is probably the best
Yeah.
one to if you want to follow me. And then Amazon. There's Amazon. It's available on Amazon.
Amazon's the best link.
Probably, yeah.
I've
for
got them all.
buying
I've got your website and everything. So
Okay, great.
Goodreads, the whole nine.
Yeah, I don't know how much of the audience here is on Goodreads. I didn't get on Goodreads until I was like realized there's a that's where the sort of big readers are.
Yeah.
But Facebook is one where I'm kind of doing the most.
And then we'll put your actual website out there as well.
Oh,
So
it's shame. I have not done a good enough job of keeping that.
that's all right. That's all right. It's got the links to all your social media on there too. I went and already was taking a look at it earlier.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Very
so
cool.
Well, buddy, since you didn't do a I'm not sure why you're not seeing the chats, buddy. Dave was saying the same thing.
No,
I checked it.
Mine are
I
up.
checked it
Mine are up
mid-show.
now after I refreshed it. Mine are
So
up.
you just had to refresh. Okay.
Maybe I need to do that.
That's
Anyway.
fine. But why don't you tackle that AAR?
Yeah, well, the AAR is pretty simple on this one because it's pretty much all kind of segues into each other. The first one is, it's funny. We've talked about this before on the show, but Dave and I have definitely talked about it here recently. It's like you don't get too caught up in the flag waving and we need to go to war because we need to go to war stuff. It's our job as veterans to be the spokesperson for the 20-year-olds that are getting told that in order to make the grass grow, you need the presence of hemoglobin. It's not a real thing. It's our job to make sure that we don't repeat the same lessons that we learned over 20 plus years of Iraq and Afghanistan of going to a war with no end state. If we are going to a war because there's a reason and a purpose that we agree on and we make the decision that we're actually going to go to war and Congress says we're at war, then great. But if we're just doing an executive order and going to fight somebody because one rich guy's mad at another rich guy, probably not beneficial to the America as a whole. Then we went into Downriver, a memoir of a warrior poet by Ryan McDermott, who's a guest on the show. I will say it's after reading the book, it's a very, I wouldn't say an easy read. There's a lot of times where you're reading the book and you're like, man, I feel like I know too much about this guy, but it's an easy book to get into, an easy book to read and understand, and it's worth seeing the growth, both in the maturity from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. I would check it out. Well, I already did check it out, so you guys should probably check it out. If I can read it, and I'm from North Alabama, and enjoy it and understand what the point of the book is, then pretty much anybody with a third grade education should be able to pick it up and get something out of it. I think that it does a really great job of letting us know that seeking help is not a bad thing, and it doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means that you were smart enough to realize that your car had a problem and you take it to a mechanic. But yeah, check it out on. Dave will go over all the places to check it out because I don't really know. I got a copy sent to me, so
I do have one.
Probably
here too,
not going to send out copies to everybody.
Yeah.
Check it out on all the links.
Yeah.
We posted the links, buddy.
There you go. Check it out.
Last words, brother. Last words for you.
Ryan, that's for you.
Oh, me?
Ryan.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, no, just thanks for having me on. And, one of the goals, I think for me is anybody, telling more stories. I don't know if I haven't looked into.
Oh, no.
Not me. Tim.
No, it was him. He was great this whole time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
Just wait.
Bueller.
Come
give him a
back.
second. Give him a second.
Bueller. He's either going to come back or drop, one of the two.
Yeah. Listen. Nope. I think we lost him.
I think we lost him. Yeah.
I think so.
Hey, Trash Talkers, Gruntworks Nation, wherever else we're streaming on. Thanks for tuning in. This was an amazing episode. Definitely go get the book. If you need more information, you can check us out on VeteranTrashTalk.com. You can rewatch the episode on YouTube. Go buy some of our merch because that's how we promote.
There he is.
Oh, he's back. Let's
He's
go.
back.
Sorry. My connection switched to my phone. Anyway, I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's my last word. Thanks for
Thank
reading
you.
It was
it.
great
And-
talking to you. Yeah. And it really is a good book. So
Go to VeteranTrashTalk.com. I covered everything except for shop.VeteranTrashTalk.com. There's the DD214 veteran shirt, which I'm wearing. When you guys purchase these shirts, that's what we use to promote our veteran-owned businesses, our authors, and everything. So everybody have a great weekend, and we'll catch you guys next Saturday.
You forgot our
possibly.
sponsors.
Yeah. Thanks to the
forgot our
Veterans Mortgage
sponsors.
Source. Boom. Love y'all. Happy
Jesus,
Saturday.
Dave.
Peace.